How long do you think this lifestyle is sustainable? Are you looking for company on any trips? Bad idea to try the Skye Trail before the West Highland Way as a begin to mid-level hiker. Hi everyone and welcome to a new video. If you're new here, hi, my name is Ellie, I'm a long distance hiker and backpacker, and the day this video is going to go live is the end of the year, December 21st, 2025. And to finish this year on my channel here on YouTube, I thought I would do a little Q&A video. You've been asking a lot of questions throughout the year, but also under my last post. I'm trying to get through as many of them as I can. I don't want the video to be too long, so if there's anything else you want to know, feel free to let me know in the comments, but I will try my best and answer the question that I get asked the most. I have grouped the questions into some bigger categories, and the first category that I want to answer is questions about my best hiking moments, my motivation, and yeah, stuff like that. Question number 1, what motivates you to hike so many miles and so many times a year? And that's a simple one for me. I just feel like being outside is just my absolute happy place. I feel so at home outside. And so this is not something that I have to motivate myself, but I don't know, it sounds cheesy, but I'm just motivated by seeing new places or seeing familiar places. Being outside, enjoying nature. It's just living this very basic life, stripped down to your basic needs. I really enjoy that. I really feel at home being outside. Question number 2, what or who got you interested in hiking and how old were you? I've answered that in a previous video that I'm going to link down below, but the short answer is that I've always been interested in the outdoors. My parents hiked a lot, spent their holidays in the Alps, but then it really my solo through hiking phase started during COVID, when there weren't many options to travel abroad, which I had done before that, and yeah, you just needed to stay at home, and I feel like taking a backpack, going into the countryside was the only thing that you could really do. And it just started from there. I went on my first solo hikes in my local area in the south of Germany. I've been watching YouTube videos, seeing other people's trail experiences, and yeah, I don't know, I just felt this itch that this could be something for me. Question number 3, if you had to do a through hike you have done again, which one would you pick? That's a bit of a hard question because if you've watched my videos, you know that I'm a really optimistic person, so I always try to see the best in everything, and that also applies to trails. I can't really think of a trail that I would say was horrible, because I feel like there's beauty everywhere, there's always something nice to see. So as a result of that, I would probably do a lot of the hikes that I did again. But if I had to do one right now, I think I would say the coast to coast, Wainwright's coast to coast, just because there was so much variation. There was a bit of everything. There was a bit of a social aspect. Quite a lot of people are doing it. It's easy to get to know other hikers. So I think I would pick the coast to coast. The next question, would you ever complete the joggle hike again, and would you choose a different route? I probably would do the joggle hike again, but not in the near future, I would think, just because it's such a big project and there's a lot of other things that I'm really interested in, and I really liked my route as well. If I would do it again, I think I would choose a different one, just to have some variation. For example, take the John O'Groats Trail, or go via the western side of the country through the Lake District, and then maybe see other parts of England that I haven't explored that much, like the Cotswolds Way. I think that would probably be my route then. Next question, what is your most memorable hiking experience? Also a tough one, but I think for me this will always be the coast path in Cornwall. My first longer through hike with Otto, and yeah, just because it changed, I don't know, it just has this magical aspect to it for me personally. If you've watched my documentary about my journey, about my joggle journey, I explain it in this documentary a bit more, but yeah, the coast path just It's a very special place for me and something that changed my life a lot, my outlook on life. This will always have a very special place in my heart. The next set of questions is something that I would summarize under the category of trail advice. Question number 1, bad idea to try the Skye Trail before the West Highland Way as a begin to mid-level hiker. I would say definitely don't underestimate the Skye Trail, especially if you're not sure about the weather, and obviously that's a lot of the time in Scotland. I was very lucky this year, which was just very settled, very sunny. There was no rain for over a week. The trail is not easy. There's river crossings that can be quite hard if it's really wet. And yeah, don't be fooled by my videos because it was very easy for us just because the conditions were so great and easy. But if the visibility is bad, if it's really wet, don't underestimate it because there's in parts it's pathless. You definitely need to know how to navigate the terrain and everything. It's not that straightforward all the time. It's not signposted, so it's definitely a lot harder than the West Highland Way. So I would say if you don't have a lot of experience with navigating potentially boggy terrain, river crossings, these things, navigation in poor visibility, I probably wouldn't recommend the Skye Trail unless you have a really settled weather window. But as an alternative, I can really recommend the Afric Kintail Way that also has this like aspect of wilderness, being out in the middle of the highlands. Obviously it's a bit of a different trail because it's not at the coast. But it's a really great trail. It's, in my opinion, it's easier, it's good path, it's signposted, and yeah, maybe that's, especially if the weather isn't too great, I think that would be a better alternative just to be safe. The next question, any tips for the Southern Upland Way? Me and my partner are doing it in May. I would say definitely make sure to have enough food. Check your resupply options because there's sections on the hike where there's basically nothing for days. But apart from that, I would say enjoy this middle part, especially from St. John's Town to Moffat or even further on to Melrose. That was my favorite part, and in hindsight I wish I had spent a bit more time there. For example, Moffat is a great place for a rest day, just to explore it a little bit. I would definitely make sure to stay in Over Pawhope Bothy, just because it's such a nice place. There probably will be other hikers there. It's just, I don't know, it's just a really comfy, nice place. And also the area around Benlock Head. It's only a small village, but I don't know, it just felt so different from other places, and there's plenty of options to wild camp in this area. So yeah, definitely make sure if you can to take your time, because there will be just an abundance of really nice epic spots to wild camp, to have great views, and yeah, just take it all in. It's a beautiful area, there's so much to see. The next question, on your long rainy and wet hikes, how do you look after your feet? Do they get wet and stay wet all day? You always wear non-waterproof socks and running shoes, is that right? Do you work hard to prevent blisters? I don't know if I'm very lucky, but I very rarely have to deal with blisters. The only thing that I make sure is that I have shoes that are wide enough, because your feet will swell a little bit, and the same goes for waterproof socks. If it's really, really wet, or if there's a lot of river crossings, I wear sealskin socks, which are waterproof socks, but obviously they're quite thick, so definitely make sure that your feet are wide enough, because otherwise if it's really tight and narrow, obviously that will cause blisters more easily. So that's the first thing that I do. And then the only other thing that I'm really, really strict about is to always have a pair of dry socks. I will, for example, if I have wet socks and they didn't dry out overnight, I don't put on my other pair of dry socks. I would just put on the wet socks again, which is a bit uncomfortable. I know that it's the most horrible thing on a hike, having to do that, and you have cold feet. But for me personally, I don't know, I just don't really mind, because as long as I'm moving, it's not that bad. And the moment it stops to rain, or if I'm on a bit of better terrain where it's not that boggy again, the shoes and my socks will dry out very, very quickly. It's just through the movement and your feet that are getting warm. So it's not that often that I have wet feet all the time, because it's as soon as it's not wet anymore, it doesn't rain anymore, they already start to dry out. But as I said, I always make sure to have one pair of dry socks to wear at night, in the evenings. That makes a lot of difference. And also I try, especially if it's really wet, I try to air out my feet as much as possible, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. The next question, also about the logistics of the trail. I can't remember specifically, but I think you use or have used Post Restante in the UK. Can you share how this works exactly? Do you call beforehand to check if they accept packages? Post Restante is a system that works in a lot of different countries, and it works if you don't have an address but still want to pick up a parcel. And what you can do is basically address it to yourself with your name, but instead of the address line that you would normally use, you use the name and address of the post office, and you make sure to write Post Restante, which is basically saying that the post office should keep it, should hold it for you. And I've done that a lot of times, basically on all my hikes, on all my longer hikes. It works really well. I didn't have any issues whatsoever. I think definitely check the Royal Mail website. I think they recommend that you call the post office beforehand to let them know, and I sometimes did that, but not all the time. Sometimes it's hard to reach them, but I always make sure to have the right address. You can check that online, just the exact address, name of the post office. And I also leave like some sort of sticky note on top of the parcel in a different color, and I just leave a little message on this note, something along the lines of "please hold for a long distance hiker, expected date of arrival," and I leave the approximate date where I'm going to be, and I also leave my phone number on the parcel, just to make sure, because most post offices, in my opinion, they probably wouldn't just throw away the parcel without calling you, and then you can explain what you're doing, etc. But make sure there are different limits how long they will keep the parcel. I think depending if you're sending it from abroad or from inside the UK, it's 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. So definitely make sure to check online. But other than that, I just go ahead and send it to the post offices, and yeah, never had any issues. You just need your ID with your name on it to collect it. The next question, how do you select your wild camping spots? Do you have a vague idea where you'll be, or leave it to chance? Most of the time, if I'm not very familiar with the area, I check for potential spots before setting off, just to be able to have like a rough estimate of the distance, because obviously I don't want to overdo it for Otto. So in most cases I check on the OS maps just to see what the terrain is like. Is it going to very likely be boggy, or just things like that? Is it going to be rocky? Is it really steep, where it might be hard to set up camp? How high is it? Is it maybe covered by hills from different sides so that it's a bit wind sheltered? These little things. Are there bigger tracks nearby, settlements, something like that? So I make sure to check those things, that I'm not really like disturbing anyone, be a bit out of the way. And sometimes I also check the satellite image on Google Maps, just to have a bit of a rough idea what the terrain is going to be like. And most of the time I have a couple of spots in mind that I think might be great for a wild camp. But then obviously if you get there and it's really boggy or it's too rocky to set up the tent, there's no guarantee. But I think it's a good idea just to make yourself familiar with the terrain a little bit. Oftentimes you will end up find a better spot, but still it's nice just to have a bit of a rough idea, a backup plan if you're going a bit higher up, to also have a bit of a lower option if the weather turns, and that's something that I'm always doing. The next question, do you have to deal with ticks very often? If so, what works for you and the dog to keep them away? Yes, I feel like they're quite common almost all year round, I would say, especially in Scotland. If there's deer around, I don't do that much. Otto's wearing a Seresto tick collar that works well for him. And for me, if I see that I'm walking through like brush or anything where there might be a lot of ticks, I just spray a little bit of smidge repellent to my shoes, to my gaiters, which I feel like helps quite a bit. Obviously it doesn't last that long, just a couple of hours. But other than that, I just make sure to pull my socks, to put my socks over my hiking leggings. And also, for example, if I take down the tent, I just make sure to put some smidge on my hands too, because obviously they crawl onto your hands quite quickly. And apart from that, I'm just checking for ticks every night, checking Otto for ticks. But I also make sure to check the area before I'm setting up the tent, just by brushing over the grass. So I always try to make sure not to set up in a tick hotspot, in a tick nest. But apart from that, that's how I manage them. And most of the time, that has been okay. And the last question for this area, for this category, how do you always find sockets to charge all your electronics while camping and wild camping? I found a lot of campsites don't really have anywhere to charge phones. What I always do is just I look around everywhere, for example, laundry rooms, if there's a little kitchen area, or those little sheds, those little information houses, things. I actually find sockets quite often in different places. Sometimes they're in bathrooms as well. So I have a really good look around, and oftentimes I find some. If there's really nothing, I just ask the reception staff, the wardens, if they would charge my phone. If you don't want to leave your phone with them, you can also just give them a power bank to charge that. So yeah, that's what I mostly do. I don't leave my phone anywhere. Most of the time I just charge my power bank, and then if I'm back at my tent, I just charge my phone with my power bank. And the same goes for if I'm in a cafe, in a pub. The first thing that I always have a look for is if there are sockets to charge my phone or to top up my power bank. That's just my number one priority. And even if it doesn't charge it completely, but if you're sitting there for half an hour and you plug it in right away, that gives you a little bit of charge. So that's something that I'm always doing if I'm in a cafe, even for just 20 minutes. I just quickly get out my power bank and top it off a little bit. The next set of questions is about my future plans. Number one, what long hikes are you going to do in 2026? There's going to be a little separate video on that, otherwise this video would be too long, but it will go live next week, so definitely stay tuned for that. I have a lot of exciting plans for 2026. Then the next question, do you plan any hikes in the US? And I've been asked that before, and the honest answer is not in the near future. I don't want to leave Otto behind while he's still so active, so curious, eager to get out. So it's definitely on the list, but not in the very near future. If money was no object, where would I like to visit? Probably New Zealand. I just think it looks like a very interesting place with trails, a lot of beautiful landscapes. But yeah, obviously it's quite a long journey. I couldn't bring Otto, it's quite expensive. But yeah, that would definitely be on my list. Next question, have I traveled to the Outer Hebrides? Not yet. I've been to the Orkney Islands a couple of years ago, but not to the Outer Hebrides. Definitely on the list though. Have we been to Ireland? I have been to Ireland a few times, but that was before Otto. And I know there's a lot of nice long distance trails as well. It's definitely on the list, but obviously I would have to take one ferry over to the UK, to England, then drive across the country, take another ferry. It's just, obviously it's more expensive, it's a very long travel. So it's definitely on the list, but it needs a bit more planning. Next question, are you going back to Snowdonia? There's also the Snowdonia Sleigh Trail. Yes, going back to Snowdonia is definitely planned for 2026. Stay tuned for the next videos where I talk a bit more about that. Do you have any plans to do a long distance hike in another country? Yes, definitely, but what I have to keep in mind that Otto and I have hiked in Spain last year, which was quite hard, not very dog friendly. Getting there is quite long, especially if I don't want to drive there with my van. and leave it there for longer. So there definitely are a couple of hikes on my list, but especially the southern part of Europe, south of France, Spain, south of Germany, Italy, it's just very, very warm, very hot in summer, which makes hiking quite hard. I would have to go in the shoulder seasons. It's not that easy to plan everything. What's very high on my list is Scandinavia, but same there. It's quite long travel and it's very expensive, even more than the UK for me. So yeah, it's definitely on the list, and I will definitely go to other countries as well, apart from Spain, where we have been already on the Camino. But yeah, just a lot of things that I have to consider for that. Then the last question: are you looking for company on any trips? Or would you like to do a group hike and offer this to your community? When it comes to company for any trips, I don't know, this sounds weird, maybe, I don't know. I don't want it to sound harsh, but probably not. I really enjoy hiking my own pace, hiking Otto's pace, and it's not easy to walk with someone, because obviously I'm quite limited when it comes to transport, accommodation with Otto. And as I said earlier, the outdoors, they're just my happy place. They're my place to reflect, to just be immersed in nature. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm enjoying it more if I'm really on my own. When it comes to group hikes, I definitely would love to do that, to try it, how I like it, how other people would like it. But obviously there's a lot that goes into that. Before you can offer that, you have to have qualification, insurance, things like that. Also for me specifically, if I would offer something like that in the UK, I would have to get a different visa to be able to work in the UK. So it's not as easy. I definitely in the future would love to do the hill and more leader training. That's definitely planned. That's definitely on my bucket list. I don't know if it's going to happen next year, but it's definitely something that I want to work towards. Then there are two questions about Otto and taking him on my hikes. Number one, how do you plan Otto's resupply on your longer hikes? Do you have to switch the brand often? I actually try not to switch his food at all, if it's possible. It's not always possible, but Otto is quite food sensitive. So most of the time I try to give him his regular food that he's used to. But of course, that means a lot of planning. There's a lot of time, effort, also money that goes into that. Sending resupply parcels. I typically carry Otto's food for around 7 to 10 days. I mean, he's small, he doesn't eat that much, so that's still manageable for me. Obviously, it's different for bigger dogs, but in that regard, I'm quite lucky. If I'm on a longer hike, I try to get to a place where I've sent a resupply parcel every 7 to 10 days to get his food, but yeah, obviously it's not always possible. I sometimes have to switch food, but I try everything with a lot of planning so that he can have his food, the food that is used to, as much as possible. The next question, how do I look after Otto's paws? What I'm doing is that in the evenings and sometimes in the mornings as well, if it's really wet or if the terrain is really rocky, I put on paw cream that I got. It's no specific brand or anything, but I got it from a company that sells stuff for sled dogs, and that works very well. It's not a wax consistency, but really some sort of cream. It sticks really well to the paw, so it even after a couple of hours you can still feel that it's still on there, and that works very well. Other than that, I don't really do anything, but I just make sure to check his paws every night, and yeah, to put on the cream at night, to soak in overnight, and sometimes in the morning too. The next two questions are about my gear. How does the Durston Kakwa backpack fit me as a shorter person? Actually, even though I'm rather short, only 1 meter 60 centimeters, but my torso isn't that small. I feel like the Kakwa fits very well. I got the size small, but I think I could even have gone for the size medium. So it's definitely, I would definitely say that it's a good backpack, even if you're a shorter person. The next question, are you finding the X-Dome easier to pitch than the X-Mid? For beginners, probably yes, because it's more intuitive and probably more, if you've never hiked with a trekking pole tent before, it's just more intuitive to assemble the pole set and then clip the fly to the tent poles. If you have pitched the X-Mid a couple of times, it's very easy as well, just staking out the corners. And what I feel like, it's definitely a lot quicker. If you have the experience and if you have set it up a couple of times, it definitely takes less time to set up the X-Mid compared to the X-Dome. It just takes a bit longer to assemble the poles and everything. But when it comes to the difficulty, I don't think that the X-Dome is easier than the X-Mid if you have a little bit of experience. Then there have been a couple of questions about filming, editing on the trail. How do you edit on the trail? What programs do you use? What tablet? It's very simple. I don't have a subscription or anything. I'm editing on my iPad, which is the iPad Air from, I think, 3 years ago, with the Apple Pencil. That's really helpful just to go into a bit more detail. Do all my editing on there, even if I'm at home, because my iPad is just a lot more powerful than my laptop. You're a bit more limited when it comes to programs because not everything runs on a tablet. What I use is LumaFusion, which is, I think, designed especially for iOS, and it works very well. It's not the most advanced, obviously, but it has more features than I use most of the time, so I think it's a really powerful tool. There's also DaVinci that also has a tablet app, but I feel like that's a bit easier to do on a laptop, and I don't want to switch between different devices, so I only edit with my iPad, so that it doesn't matter if I'm at home or on trail where I don't have access to my laptop, obviously. And yeah, that works really well. There's no subscription, you just pay it one time and then you have the app. The hardest thing when it comes to editing on trail is to have enough power, and that's the most of the time the only reason if I upload a video too late, because obviously editing an entire video, that takes a lot of power, usually at least 2 entire power banks, so over 50,000 milliampere, that I would need to keep my iPad charged to do the entire editing process, and obviously I'd only carry 1 power bank, so if I don't have access, I can't do everything at once. I have to charge it in between, and obviously I also have other devices, my phone, my camera, to get charged, so that's the biggest issue. And then related to that, what do I use for filming? I use the DJI Osmo Action 4, which is a action camera similar to the GoPro, for example, but I'm really happy. I wasn't very happy with my GoPro. I'm really happy with the DJI that I have right now. Obviously these action cameras, they have their limitations. You can't really zoom in. There's no possibility of doing like macro shots, something like that, but there's always going to be a bit of a trade-off. I would love to have a better camera for details, for zooming in, but obviously you always have to carry all that as well. And yeah, if I'm out on longer hikes, for me, I just can't carry anything else with dog food and everything. And now, to finish this video, there are a couple of miscellaneous questions that I want to answer. Number 1, how long does it take to drive from Germany, and is it expensive? Most of the time it takes me 2 days. I live in the south of Germany, so it takes me bit over 8 hours. It's over 800 kilometers to get to the ferry, either in Calais or in Rotterdam or Amsterdam, depending on the ferry I'm taking. Most of the time I'm going to the Netherlands and taking a ferry from Rotterdam over to Hull. And if I book it early enough, it's still expensive, but it's okay, I feel like, for Otto to have a cabin to sleep there, because it's a night ferry. So if I book it early enough, or if it's a bit off season, It's not that expensive, but still overall it's not cheap either, because obviously I have to drive all the way up there, then I have the ferry, and then I'm somewhere in the middle of England, and then depending on where I'm going, I have to drive at least a couple of hours, sometimes another day, if I want to go up to Scotland. So it's quite a journey, definitely. Next question, how long do you think this lifestyle is sustainable? Well, I don't really, for my life personally, don't have this like a 5-year plan or something like that, but this is my dream life, so I really hope that I can keep living like that. It comes with sacrifice. I don't own my own place. I live quite minimalist. I don't eat out a lot, just saving all my money. I work in winter to sustain my travels over the summer, my hikes, and obviously if I'm on trail, it's not that expensive. I mean, traveling is, but then just hiking, sleeping in a tent is not that expensive. So I'm doing okay, but obviously, as I said, there are sacrifices. I don't own a lot of stuff. There are moments of financial insecurity, and I definitely want this to be a lifestyle that I'm going to live for a long time, and I'm doing everything so that this comes true. This is my dream life. Why do I keep coming back to the UK? I've answered that in my last video that I'm going to link down below. But in short, I just like the UK. I like the hiking culture. I like the landscape that aren't too hard, but still at the same time, there's a lot of variation. There's a bit of everything. It's not too hot in summer. It's not too cold in winter. And yeah, I don't know. I just, especially Scotland, this place just has my heart, and I just enjoy it a lot. As part of a wider tour of Europe, if we will go to Bavaria to do several one-day lower level and also mountain hikes, where would you say is the best place area to be based? I live in Bavaria in the south of Germany. The classic would probably be Berchtesgaden, which is a beautiful area. There's the Königssee, Salzburg is not too far, Munich is not too far, but obviously it's insanely busy, especially in summer. There's a lot of tourists everywhere, so depending on the season you're going there, it can be very busy. It is beautiful, it's definitely worth it, but not something, especially the main area, it's quite hard finding accommodation there, but that's a beautiful area. What I can also recommend is either Garmisch-Partenkirchen. You have the Zugspitze there, the highest mountain in Germany, but there are also lower mountain ranges, and depending on the area, if you're not going to the Zugspitze, there's a lot of other areas that are a lot where there are a lot less people. Some areas, even in summer, if you've watched my summer bivy camp, there was no one there, and that was the height of summer. So there's definitely areas around Oberammergau, Garmisch-Partenkirchen that are great, where there's definitely less people, where you have the hills a bit more to yourself. And a third option would be Oberstdorf. Same as well, there are a lot of trails there, also Via Ferratas. It's a classic stop for people that do the hike, the traverse of the Alps to Italy. So it's quite popular there as well. A lot of higher mountains, but also low level. That would be my recommendation. And then last question, how do you maintain your fitness? How did you get fit for your hikes? I honestly didn't do a lot, or I didn't do any special training. What I really like about hiking is that you can just start very slow, and I feel like you build up your pace and your fitness just very quickly by just doing it. So what I would say, I mean, obviously it helps if you have like some sort of base fitness level, but if you can, I would say if you can walk 8 to 10 miles with a little bit of elevation, I think you would be good to go for most beginner long distance hikes. Just don't pressure yourself too much. Just take it slow, take it day by day. If you're too tired, then do a bit less. If you feel like, okay, I could keep going, then go a bit further the next day. But I don't do anything specific. I feel like even if I've been home for a couple of weeks, it just comes back very very quickly and it just comes back by just doing it. This is it for this video. As I said, I couldn't do all the questions because otherwise this video would have been too long. But if there's anything else that you still want to know, let me know in the comments and I will try my best and answer all your questions. I hope this video wasn't too long. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. That would really mean a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great last day of 2025 and a happy new year. I hope next year will be an amazing year for you with lots of adventures. Definitely stay tuned. I have a lot of exciting plans that I can't wait to share with you next week. Thank you so much for watching. Happy hiking and I'll see you next time. Bye!